Like many businessmen, Tanaka had a favorite suit, and whenever he wore it, whether he be negotiating deals, impressing new clients, or representing his company at events, Tanaka felt a great sense of power and strength, more than with any of the other dozen or so suits that he owned. But Tanaka truly loved the suit when he wore it socially, when his hunger for conquests outside the financial realm finally bubbled to the surface. Tanaka would then button his jacket, knot his tie, and spend long hours moving from establishment to establishment, seeking the ever-elusive perfect mark, whom he would then dazzle, impress, and hopefully conquer back at his lavish apartment. Tanaka lived for such adventures, and his favorite suit was always there to accompany him, helping the straight-laced to loosen themselves and their clothes and let the businessman in. Now, because of these regular extracurricular conquests, Tanaka would frequently need to send the suit to be cleaned. Now, all the tenants in his building, men of great status and power much like himself, used one very specific cleaning shop. The place had been there seemingly forever. Even the oldest residents in his building could not recall when exactly it had opened. But it cleaned better than the fancier shops and charged a fair price, regardless of the status of the customer or the quality of the garment. And some clients whispered of great fortune falling upon them after but a single visit. This all mattered little to Tanaka, for he only cared if the cleaners made his suit look sharp, and that they did not damage it in any way. One day, after pulling the wrapping off of his freshly cleaned suit, Tanaka noticed a small flaw, practically invisible. It was only because Tanaka loved the suit so dearly and checked it over constantly that he saw the blemish. A few raised strands on the sleeve, near the shiny buttons that he spent much time polishing. Tanaka scowled. Never had the cleaners made such a mistake with his clothing before. Quickly gathering up the jacket and receipt, he headed to the shop. While he had been patronizing the business for years, Tanaka had never actually been inside. Instead, he would drop his laundry with the doorman, who would then ferry the goods to and from the tiny shop, as this is how things were done. So when he pushed open the paper and wood door to the cleaning shop, he paused, as the smell of incense hit his nostrils, and the general heat of the room began to wash over him. "Irishimasu," said an old woman sitting behind the counter, her white hair long and stringy, barely held back by a wrapped red ribbon. "What can I do for you, most honored customer?" Tanaka looked around at the old kimonos and ripped clothing that lined the walls. Unusual for a garment cleaner, he thought, but the businessman simply dismissed it. He then walked the 6 or so steps to the counter and deposited the suit jacket on top. "My jacket has been damaged," he said, as he pointed to the slight blemish, and set his face firm. The old woman stared at him for a moment, her eyes clouded, then looked down at the sleeve. Tanaka wondered if she could even see it. Or maybe it was her poor eyesight that had caused the damage in the first place. The woman then slid her fingers along the cloth, rubbing at the raised fibers between her thumb and forefinger. Slight scarring, but nothing unusual for a well-worn garment such as this. Natural wear, I would think. Tanaka scowled. "No such thing, woman. This jacket is flawless. It has always been flawless. You must have scratched it during cleaning." The woman simply stared at him. "We take the utmost care of our honored customers' clothing, Tanaka-san. This must be natural wear. But if you would like, I could attempt to mend it." Tanaka took the jacket from her. "No, that will not be necessary. I will fix it on my own." He then folded the jacket around his arm and moved to leave. "Mind your possessions, Tanaka-san," he heard her say as the door shut behind him. A week passed, and Tanaka made 2 great conquests. One that allowed his company to absorb a smaller, older one that was widely regarded, at least by Tanaka and his cronies at the firm, to be long past its prime, regardless of how beloved it was by the employees and clients. The other Tanaka considered to be among his finest, a lovely foreign student, enamored by his charm and powerful suit. He had bedded the girl in her own apartment and vanished as she slept, undoubtedly still lost in his majestic skill. While he had been reluctant to set his beloved suit back to the cleaners that had scratched it, the fact that he had been most successful while wearing a now flawed garment only spoke of good fortune, which others in his building had attributed to the shop. Perhaps the flaw had somehow made him act even more flawlessly in his dealings, or else the damage had transformed the suit into a charm, which would have been most fortuitous for him. When he stripped off the packing this time, however, Tanaka saw a broken seam, right along the shoulder. The threads had unraveled and were pulled taut, threatening to snap. Tanaka seethed. He quickly forgot about his bounteous luck, as now his suit had been marred enough for others to see. He might not even be able to repair it sufficiently. Once more he gathered up the suit and proceeded to the cleaning shop. The same old woman sat behind the counter, though she was silent as he approached. A pair of knitting needles did their work in her old wrinkled hands, as he slammed down the suit and banged his fist on the old wooden counter. "Again you have damaged my suit, old woman!" He pointed to the ripped seam, his face flushed. The woman touched the threads and made a clicking sound, and looked back at him. "Natural wear, Tanaka-san. You must remember to take good care of your possessions." "How can this be natural wear? The suit was flawless before I sent it to you. Now it is forever damaged." He shoved a finger in the woman's face, but she simply stared back at him. "I can mend, though without proper care, it will break again." Tanaka prepared to shout back, but something about her eyes unnerved him. How could she do her job with such clouded eyes? He snatched up the suit once more. "I will send it elsewhere, old woman. You have damaged it twice now, and will not damage it again." He quickly turned and left without a second glance. The suit was then mended, but Tanaka's threat was forgotten, as the following weeks were even more successful than the previous. 3 contracts negotiated that brought in over 1 billion yen, and each night after the success at the firm, Tanaka conquered a succession of even more lovely women, each one wilier than the last. His friends would slap Tanaka's back, secretly envying him for such good luck. Given his success, it was inevitable that he would assume an executive position in the firm within the year, and Tanaka reveled in the attention. Even as the companies he acquired shut their doors and displaced their workers, it did not matter to the successful Tanaka, for he was reaching his dreams. One morning, as he was buttoning his favorite freshly cleaned suit, both arms detached, sleeve sliding down his silk shirt to the floor. Tanaka froze, staring at the crumpled cloth. No, he thought. It was perfect. Everything had been perfect. The woman, that old woman, she must have damaged the suit again. Tanaka seethed. A blemish he could forgive. The seam on the arm was easily mended, but now the suit, the clothing that had granted him so much, was ruined. No chance of fixing it as perfectly as it had once been. Tanaka gathered up the broken sleeve and stormed off towards the shop, not even bothering to remove the rest of the jacket. However, when he arrived, the shop was closed, and the wooden door was fastened tight. This didn't matter to the enraged Tanaka. He banged furiously on the door until the frame shook, shouting for the old woman to come out and explain herself. Passerbys stopped and stared at the irate young man, continuing to pound on the door over and over again. It wasn't until a policeman touched his shoulder that Tanaka stopped. Still angry, he fixed his officer with a withering stare. "I have important business with this shop." The policeman tilted his head. "But there is no shop here, and there has not been for many years." Tanaka prepared a rebuke, but he noticed a large crowd of people now staring at him. Then he looked back at the door. There was in fact no shop there, only an old building affixed with a red notice informing of impending demolition. He felt himself flush, suddenly aware of how it looked to be standing there in a torn suit, yelling at an empty shop. Tanaka quickly apologized to the officer and hurried back to his apartment. As the businessman had dreaded, without the suit everything began to fail. Flaws in his negotiation tactics caused 2 of his deals to suddenly fall through, at a great embarrassment to both him and his superiors. Without the confidence and strength that the suit gave him, Tanaka stumbled through subsequent client meetings, earning himself admonishments. And what's even worse, no matter how he tried, the ladies would no longer speak to him. His co-workers, the same ones who envied his rapid rise, began avoiding him, whispering about his impending termination. It was all too much for Tanaka, to have tasted success and fallen, all because he lost his best suit. Tanaka cursed the reversal of his luck, cursed fortune for abandoning him, and cursed his now pitiable life. The next day he was fired from his job, and he returned home to an eviction notice. That night, Tanaka stood on his balcony, the one he had worked so hard to obtain, at the expense of so many co-workers and smaller companies upon which he preyed, and threw himself off. He awoke to the taste of salt in his mouth, and a burning sensation in his eyes, and the sound of a soft snicker. As he looked up, his face turned white as a sheet. "Why, Tanaka-san, did I not tell you to take care of your possessions?" The old woman smiled down at him, dressed in a flowing robe, her hair finely free of the ribbon to whip around in the hot wind. And behind her, a willow tree towered above both of them, the tattered remains of his favorite suit swinging freely.